Hey everybody, in this lesson I am going to expand on what we started with last time, which was really just to get an RStudio Cloud account and define a workspace and upload a file. And you can see here that I've uploaded a few more files, so I can demonstrate what we're going to do today, which is graphing and interpreting baseline data. So at the beginning of every session, you're just going to need to go into your packages pane and just make sure that SSD for R is checked. It is still here in my case because I have set my defaults to keep my workspace where it was last time. And so to demonstrate this, I am going to use Gloria's data. You will use Gloria's data perhaps later in the semester, but for now I'm having you use Jenny's data. And what I demonstrate to you today with Gloria, you will do something similar like this with Jenny for your homework. So to get, we need to put Gloria's data into our global environment. And so to do that, we're going to need to use the get CSV function. Now I can type it into the console here, like we did last time, but I'm going to show you something now, which is to create a script that I think will be helpful to you in the future. So to build a script, we are going to go to this icon here with the little plus sign and do our script. Now, when we do this, the console is going to drop down, and this is just going to create chunks of code that we can use over and over again. So before we do that, I just want to save this so we have it for future use. So we're just going to go save, and I am going to just call this SWK601 script. And now you'll see this up here. Now, as soon as we make changes to it, it's going to go red until we save it again. You also see that it's going to be in our files here so we can access it again in the future. So the nice thing about creating these scripts is that we're going to be able to make annotations and notes to ourselves that we can use later on just for our own use. So to just make a comment, you're going to put a pound sign, or as we call it these days, a hashtag in front, and you'll notice that it's green, and that denotes, code that can't really be run. It's just a notation. So I'm going to make a note to myself to load the data to use in this session. So we need to always load this data. And then I'm going to type the get CSV. And you can't hit enter to run. You hit this, you just have to be somewhere on this line of code. So this is line 2. And when I hit run, it's going to prompt me on which file I want to choose. I'm going to choose Gloria. And when I hit open, the output that I see is still going to be in the console. And it reminds me that I should type attach SSD to begin working with the file. I can again put it here, and I'm going to say load and attach. So now I'm going to type attach SSD, and when I hit run, it'll run that code. The nice thing about this is that once I save this, I can run this code over and over again, and I'll show you that in future classes. So if I want to actually see what is in these, we only have 6 observations of 4 variables. I'm going to click this spreadsheet icon here to my right, and it's going to create another tab. And you saw this last time. And we have 2 variables that we're tracking for Gloria, depressed. And this is her score on a standardized depression scale. And this is the amount of sleep she has each night. And Gloria's an adult. She came to the agency because she was indicating that she was depressed. And so in this lesson, I'm going to show you how to graph and interpret just this baseline data. The A's here denote that this is baseline data. So this is only baseline data for Gloria. And when we had this in our spreadsheet, if we looked at this in as a CSV file in like an Excel spreadsheet, we would be putting NA at the bottom here because it means that we're going to change phases at some point. But let's take a look and see how bad Gloria's depression really is. And you would have to know much more about this scale, but higher scores are worse, indicates more depression, and sleep is the hours of sleep that she has. And this is going to be a good example because I'm going to show you how to map or how to write to graph her depression and then use that same code to also deal with her sleep. So we're going to use a function called abplot. And when we start this, typing in here, you're going to see that we're going to get some help. First of all, it tells you abplot is a function in the SSD4R package. And here it tells us what we need to put in as parameters in our between parentheses. So this is going to be the same. We're going to have a function, and then we're always going to put something in parentheses here. And in this case, let's start with depression. And the variable name is exactly as it's written up here. So we see the word depress, and it's not capitalized at all. So we're going to have depress is our behavior variable, and pdepress is our phase variable. So we're going to start with depress, comma, pdepress. And now, and I'm going to show you in here, by the way, this is explained in more detail what each of these functions means in Appendix B of your textbook, SSD4R. It's Appendix B, and it goes through the quick functions. And this is the first graphing function in that appendix. So the next thing that we have to put in is our label for the x-axis. And our x-axis is always going to be some measure of time. And these labels, because they're labels for a graph, are always going to go in quotation marks. So I am going to put in quotes, Gloria's depression was measured at each session she came to, so we're going to put in session. And then a comma, and then a label for our y-axis. And what we're going to put in here is depression. It's whatever that number represents. So this is the depression scale. And then a comma. Now notice that the commas go outside the quotation marks. And then again in quotation marks, we are going to put a label for the entire graph. And so we're going to put Gloria's depression. And if we hit run, we are going to see in our plots pane, notice that the plots pane comes up, this graph, and you should have that as well. Now, we can export this to a Word document, so that's what we're going to do here. And you can do it any number of ways. You can save this image as a JPEG or something like that as a PDF, or just copy it to a clipboard. So that's what we're going to do here. And you can change all sorts of aspects of this, but it's telling us to right click on the image above to copy it to the clipboard. And I think that's a control click on my Mac. So we're going to copy image. And now if I open a Word document, I'm going to start a new document and I'll drag it in here. Oops. I'm unable to do that right now, but you can just click at cut and paste it in the same way that you do any type of cut and paste, okay? With really anything. It does require multiple steps in, it requires multiple steps in to do the cut and paste to the clipboard. If we wanted to, I'm going to show you to save this as an image. What it does is it puts the image right in your RStudio Cloud, and you have to just give it a name. So you could create a directory that has all your graphs, like I could do, create a new folder and call this graphs. And I'll choose that. And then I could call this graph, you just give it a name, Gloria's baseline depression. And when I hit save, if you go to the files pane, it will give you this, and then you could, it's not giving me the pop-up browser. Oops. And here's my graph, and you could embed it in anything that you'd want by downloading it. You can just you can download this. Oops, you can download it. So that's how you create this graph. And if we go back to the plots pane, now we can get a sense as to what's happening with Gloria's depression. Now, baseline data is data that's collected before any type of intervention. And what we see is that it is seems to be going up and down a little bit, but it's varying between about 30 and above 45. So we can get a little bit more information about this by using the AB descript function. So we're going to do AB descript. And here we just put in the behavior variable, which is depress, and P depress. And if we hit run, we get other information. We're going to use the back arrow to look at this. But it gives us more information about this baseline data. So it's telling us in the A phase, which is the only phase we have here, we have 5 data points. And the average value of Gloria's depression is 37.8 with a standard deviation of 5.85, meaning on average, each point in here varies from the mean of 37.8 by 5.85. So you do need to know more about the score. But what is helpful here is that we have the range of values. So her lowest level of depression was 30 and her highest was 46. But it does look like on average, Gloria's depression is increasing a little bit. We see it go up, it goes down a little bit, kind of goes way up, goes down some more. And now that we have our script saved up here, we could look at her sleeping as well, because understand that people with depression sometimes sleep too little, but they also sleep too much. And since we know we wrote our code correctly in here, we can just change the variables or the parameters that we're going to pass to SSD4R in order to get a graph of Gloria's sleeping. So the variable that we had, and you can see it right here, was sleep and P sleep. So I'm just going to change depressed to sleep and P depressed to P sleep. We're recording this before every session. So session is going to stay the same. That's our x-axis label. And instead of the word depression scale, we're really measuring hours of sleep. And we're going to just call this Gloria's sleep. And if we run this, I don't need to do anything else, just hit run, we're going to see that we get a new graph, and we can scroll through our graphs by just using these arrows forward and backward. We'll talk about the box plot another day, but here's Gloria's depression, and here's her sleep. And we notice that she does have up and down sleep cycles, but notice that the maximum amount of sleep she has is not close to 8 hours. Now, some people need less sleep, but it looks like she is not sleeping all that well. And we can look at the descriptives for that variable by changing depressed to sleep and P depressed to P sleep. And if we hit run, again, I'm going to go, but we're not going to just talk about the box plot tonight, but we do want to take a look at this. Again, we have 5 observations because we measured Gloria's sleep 5 times. The average amount of sleep she got was 5.2 hours, which really 5.2 hours, which really on average for most people is too little. And her sleep for these 5 weeks, on the night before she came in for the session, was ranged only between 4 and 6 hours. So we would have to know more about the depression scale, but we are seeing that Gloria's reporting being depressed, and the scale, by the way, indicates that she's sort of in a clinically significant range in this hypothetical scale, but her sleep is indicative of somebody who may be experiencing depression. Certainly her sleep is interrupted. And again, I'm going to show you a different way how to export this. You can save it as a PDF, and I'm putting it in graphs, and then I'm going to put a PDF of Gloria's sleep. And if I do view plot after saving, it's going to show it to us here as well, okay? But if we go back to the files, you can see it here. And in future lessons, I will show you how to export these. Actually, I should show it to you now because you're going to need to do this for your homework. So let's take a look at this. We're going to go, if you go to the more, you can go to export. And let's choose this because you'll want to paste this into a Word document for your homework. We'll set export, and it's going to be downloaded. It's going to come up in our downloads. So we're going to just, I don't think that we can have the apostrophe here. So let's go take that out. Gloria's baseline depression. You hit download. Let's see. Let's open it. Yeah, let's just do it. Oops. Cancel. I'm going to cancel this. Sorry, folks. We'll just open it preview so you can see it. And it's not allowing me to drag this up into the screen, but it is here, and you can save it, and you can then embed it into a Word document or a PowerPoint. That's how you do that. So I hope you found this video helpful. Let me just recap what we covered here. First, we've recapped, I showed you how to create a script, which I would recommend you doing this, but you certainly don't have to. And then to create a plot, just a line graph. That next time I'll show you how to annotate to give yourself some more information, and then to provide some basic descriptives on the information that you plotted. I also showed you how to export these graphs into different types of files that can be copied into into either a PowerPoint or a Word document or Google Doc, and you'll be doing that for your homework. And I hope you found this video helpful.